On November 18, just 2 days after a young woman named Phoenix Spencer Horn was brutally killed, her killer picked up the phone, dialed 999, and said in a calm, steady voice, "I had a psychotic break, and I killed my wife." Those were the first words that shattered a quiet Scottish town. Phoenix, or Fee as her friends lovingly called her, was just 21 years old, a bright, kind-hearted woman whose name, like the mythical bird, symbolized rebirth and resilience. She had a gift for helping people through darkness, often becoming a source of light for those around her. One of her friends, Grace McCabe, a Miss Scotland 2024 finalist, once said, "Phoenix was the kind of person who reached out when everyone else turned away. She deserved all the happiness this world could give." Phoenix worked tirelessly, juggling several jobs, from waitressing at the Straven Hotel to serving coffee in local shops. Her co-workers remembered her as someone who carried warmth and energy wherever she went. To them, Phoenix was not just a colleague, she was the heartbeat of every room she entered. Living with her was her boyfriend of 2 years, Ewan Methvin, a 27-year-old postman. He had met Phoenix at a family gathering, and to everyone around them, they seemed perfect together. Phoenix's family adored him, polite, charming, soft-spoken. The kind of man any parent would feel lucky to see with their daughter. For 2 years, he became part of the Spencer family, almost like an adopted son. Phoenix's mother, Allison, even exchanged daily texts with him. Everything about their relationship seemed safe and stable, until the cracks began to show. As 2024 went on, Phoenix's family noticed subtle changes, nothing alarming at first, just quiet moments where she seemed distracted. Ewan had started complaining about her work schedule. He said he missed her during late shifts, that he felt lonely when she was away. It sounded like love, like longing. But what Phoenix didn't realize was that she was slowly being trained to feel guilty for her independence. Ewan's words weren't affectionate, they were manipulative. Every apology she gave him made his control stronger. No one knew it then, but the man her family trusted completely was starting to become something else entirely. Pause. The signs were there, quiet, subtle, and easy to miss. But they were leading towards something Phoenix could never have imagined. At first, Ewan's frustrations seemed harmless, the sort of minor arguments every couple has. He didn't like that Phoenix worked late nights at the hotel or spent weekends covering shifts at the cafe. He said he just wanted to spend more time with her. But gradually, those comments began to change shape. What started as affection turned into subtle control. When Phoenix apologized for missing dinner or coming home tired, Ewan accepted the apology, but never missed the chance to remind her how lonely he felt without her. Each time she tried to explain her job or dreams, he twisted the conversation until she felt guilty for wanting more. Phoenix's nature, empathetic, gentle, and endlessly understanding, became the very thing that trapped her. She believed compromise was part of love. She believed Ewan needed her support. What she didn't see was that her kindness was being used against her. Friends noticed the difference before she did. Her once bright laugh grew quieter. She stopped posting pictures of them together. When someone asked if everything was okay, she smiled and said, "He's just stressed, that's all." It's what victims of control often say, convincing themselves that the storm will pass. By November 2024, Ewan's jealousy had become constant. He checked her messages, questioned her shifts, even commented on her clothes. Phoenix tried harder to keep the peace, to reassure him. But every time she bent to make him happy, he found another reason to be unhappy. Then came Saturday, November 16th, a day that looked ordinary from the outside. Phoenix worked her shift at the Straven Hotel, cheerful as always. Guests remembered her kindness, co-workers said she was glowing that day. Meanwhile, Ewan finished his postal route and texted her repeatedly, complaining again about how her job took her away from him. Phoenix, as always, apologized. She told him she'd be home soon, hoping to calm him down. It would be her last message. When she clocked out that evening, Phoenix believed she was heading home to dinner with the man she loved. She had no idea she was walking into her own final night. Pause. The next few hours would reveal just how dark Yuan's mind had become. And how quickly love could turn into something far more dangerous. Saturday, November 16, 2024, started like any other day for Phoenix. She worked her shift at the Straven Hotel with her usual warmth and energy. Guests remembered her smile. Her coworkers described her as the kind of person who could make even the most difficult customer feel welcome. To everyone around her, she was just another young woman finishing a long week of work, tired but content. That same evening, Yuan returned from his postal route. To his colleagues, he seemed normal. Maybe even cheerful. He joked with one coworker before heading home, saying he was planning to chill for the night. No one could have imagined the darkness already taking root in his mind. Later that night, around 9:30 p.m., Phoenix texted her mother. She told her that she and Yuan were having dinner together, takeaway food and a quiet night in. It sounded ordinary. Safe. But hidden behind those words was a storm that had been building for months. When the delivery driver arrived with their food, he saw nothing unusual, no signs of anger or intoxication. Yuan looked calm, collected, and polite. That small detail would later shatter his own defense, proof that he wasn't out of control, but in complete control. What happened next can only be pieced together from evidence, forensics, and the sounds that terrified their neighbors. Around midnight, residents in the flat below heard loud thuds. Sudden, violent noises followed by hurried footsteps. Then silence. Inside the apartment, Phoenix was fighting for her life. Yuan attacked her with not one, but 3 knives. He stabbed her over 20 times, 10 of those wounds were to her face. Pathologists later said the fatal blow pierced her chest, cutting through vital organs. But Yuan didn't stop there. He strangled her, using his hands to silence the woman who had once loved him unconditionally. The assault moved from room to room. Bathroom, hallway, bedroom, evidence of Phoenix's desperate attempt to escape. Her blood told the story that her voice no longer could. By the time it was over, Phoenix Spencer Horn, the bright, kind, unstoppable young woman, was gone. And the man she had trusted with her life stood over her body, calm and silent. Pause. But the horror didn't end there. What Yuan chose to do next would cross a line so disturbing that even seasoned detectives struggled to comprehend it. For most people, that night should have ended in regret, panic, or a desperate call for help. But for Yuan Methvin, the horror had only begun. After brutally killing Phoenix, he didn't collapse in shock. He didn't call for an ambulance. Instead, he did something that revealed a level of cold calculation few could comprehend. Using the same knives he had used to stab her, Yuan decapitated Phoenix's body. He then attempted to dismember her, cutting through her wrist, ankle, and torso, trying to erase the evidence of what he had done. When police would later enter that flat, they described the scene as one of the most disturbing they had ever witnessed. Phoenix's mutilated remains were found hidden beneath a towel in the hallway. 2 knives lay beside her. A third was found discarded in the bedroom. Blood was splattered across the walls, the floors, and through multiple rooms, each mark a silent witness to what had happened inside that home. And while Phoenix's body lay there, Yuan did something that made investigators' blood run cold. At 2:40 a.m., barely hours after the murder, he started texting drug dealers, trying to buy cocaine. He spent the following morning browsing explicit websites, more than 170 searches over the next 10 hours, all while Phoenix's lifeless body remained just meters away. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't grieving. He was living normally, as if nothing had happened. But perhaps the most chilling part came when he picked up Phoenix's phone. Using her number, Yuan began texting her mother, Allison, pretending to be Phoenix. When Allison asked if her daughter was okay, he replied, "Hey, Fee isn't up yet. I'll get her to text you when she is." X. That small X at the end, a symbol Phoenix always used in her messages, made the lie believable. A few hours later, he sent another message. "Sorry, I've just woken up. XXX." For an entire weekend, Allison believed her daughter was alive, even smiling at her phone, thinking Phoenix was simply sleeping in. All while her daughter's killer sat in the same flat, driving her car, scrolling through her phone, and pretending nothing had happened. Pause. But lies never last forever. And by Monday morning, when Phoenix didn't show up for work, Ewan's carefully crafted deception started to fall apart. By Monday morning, November 18th, Ewan's web of lies began to crumble. Phoenix didn't show up for work, something she never did. Her colleagues tried calling, texting, and waiting for a response. Nothing. Phoenix was known for her reliability, her kindness, her sense of duty. If she said she would be there, she was there. So when she didn't arrive, everyone knew something was terribly wrong. Inside that flat, Ewan Methvin was breaking. The guilt, the silence, and the unbearable stench of death surrounded him. But even then, his thoughts weren't of remorse, they were of self-preservation. He continued contacting drug dealers, desperately seeking a distraction from what he'd done. But by midday, his carefully constructed mask finally cracked. At 12 p.m., Ewan dialed 999. When the operator answered, his tone was eerily calm. "I had a psychotic break, and killed my wife." When Allison asked if her daughter was okay, he replied, "Hey, Fee isn't up yet. I'll get her to text you when she is." X. That small X at the end, a symbol Phoenix always used in her messages, made the lie believable. A few hours later, he sent another message. "Sorry, I've just woken up. XXX." For an entire weekend, Allison believed her daughter was alive, even smiling at her phone, thinking Phoenix was simply sleeping in. All while her daughter's killer sat in the same flat, driving her car, scrolling through her phone, and pretending nothing had happened. Pause. But lies never last forever. And by Monday morning, when Phoenix didn't show up for work, Ewan's carefully crafted deception started to fall apart. By Monday morning, November 18th, Ewan's web of lies began to crumble. Phoenix didn't show up for work, something she never did. Her colleagues tried calling, texting, and waiting for a response. Nothing. Phoenix was known for her reliability, her kindness, her sense of duty. If she said she would be there, she was there. So when she didn't arrive, everyone knew something was terribly wrong. Inside that flat, Ewan Methvin was breaking. The guilt, the silence, and the unbearable stench of death surrounded him. But even then, his thoughts weren't of remorse, they were of self-preservation. He continued contacting drug dealers, desperately seeking a distraction from what he'd done. But by midday, his carefully constructed mask finally cracked. At 12 p.m., Ewan dialed 999. When the operator answered, his tone was eerily calm. "I had a psychotic break, and killed my wife." Those words sent officers racing to the address on Glen Lee, East Kilbride. What they found inside would haunt them for the rest of their careers. Phoenix's mutilated body was hidden under a towel in the hallway. The walls were painted with blood. And Ewan, the man who had claimed he'd lost control, stood there quietly, showing no panic, no emotion. When police arrested him, he simply said, "I couldn't stay here with her like that. I tried to move her. I tried to dismember her." It wasn't the voice of a man in a psychotic state. It was the voice of someone who knew exactly what he had done, and tried to erase it. In the following weeks, forensic experts dismantled Ewan's story piece by piece. The delivery driver confirmed Ewan was sober that night. His phone activity, text messages, and drug searches proved complete awareness. He wasn't out of his mind, he was methodically covering his tracks. For Phoenix's mother, Allison, the truth shattered her world. The messages she'd received over that weekend, the affectionate XXX she thought came from her daughter, had come from her daughter's killer. In July 2025, Judge Lord Matthews sentenced Ewan Methvin to life in prison, with a minimum term of 23 years before parole. But for Phoenix's family, there was no sentence long enough. They chose to turn their grief into purpose. Money raised in Phoenix's memory was donated to Women's Aid Scotland, helping women escape abusive relationships before it's too late. One of the organization's statements read, "Her name, Phoenix, now stands for more than loss, it stands for change, for courage, for rising from the ashes." Phoenix was only 21 years old, a bright soul taken too soon by the man she trusted most. Her story is a warning, a heartbreak, and a reminder. Love should never make you feel smaller, afraid, or controlled. Pause. For Phoenix Spencer Horn, her light may have been extinguished that night. But through her family's courage, her fire still burns.